We all welcome back to African Colonization TV and Biafran History. In today's video, let's look little into the little history concerning the Igbos. Let's look Igbo roots, the history about the Igbo roots. So you will give me some time and watch the video to the end, because this video is going to explain some certain things which people need to understand, and people need to learn the background and the roots of Igbos in Africa and in the modern days of Nigeria. So, according to the title, Hidden Origin of the Igbo People, Ancient Roots, Wealth and Influence in Modern Nigeria. This is about the hidden origin, the hidden history of Igbo, and the roots, both the roots, how they've been, and their influence in Africa and their wealth, and how they finally find themselves in Nigeria. So don't skip any part of the video, try to watch it to the end, because these our activists, they really try to explain some certain things concerning the foundation and the roots of the Igbo. So we know that so many group and many writers, they have written so many things concerning the Igbo background and Igbo history, but this is a different narrative, and also is a different way, and they will believe that this will finally explain the full details and the full story concerning the Igbo, and it is good for everybody to watch it and to understand the Igbo roots and to understand why they are saying they want to be and where they started in Africa. So, because in Nigeria, you can see a lot of ethnic groups in Nigeria. So, as you find a lot of ethnic groups, different background and a different history. So, also with the Igbos, Igbo have their own background, history, and ancient, and how they've been finally found themselves in Africa and also in Nigeria. So, as you're about to watch, like, subscribe, and share the video to go around. Let others see things happening in Africa.
What if everything you thought you knew about ancient African civilizations was wrong? Forget the pyramids for a moment, because deep within the heart of West Africa lies a story of kings, queens, and a spiritual empire so powerful it shaped a continent. Yet its true legacy remains largely untold, until now. Prepare to uncover the hidden history of the Igbo, a people whose innovation and influence predate empires you've never even heard of. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll see a side of Africa you were never taught in school. They faced slavery, colonialism, and a war that threatened to wipe them from the face of the earth. Yet, from the ashes of destruction, they rose again, stronger and more vibrant than ever. This isn't just a history lesson, it's a testament to the human spirit, a story of ingenuity, unwavering community, and an unbreakable will to survive. Get ready to witness the incredible journey of the Igbo people, a narrative of resilience that will inspire you and challenge everything you thought you knew about triumph over adversity. You won't want to miss a single moment. Imagine a society with no kings, no centralized government, yet it thrived for centuries. A people who mastered complex democratic systems, forged intricate bronze artistry, and developed sophisticated trading networks long before the modern world caught up. This is the story of the Igbo, a truly revolutionary civilization whose unique approach to governance and innovation continues to astound historians today. Join us as we dive deep into the fascinating world of the Igbo, a culture so distinct and ahead of its time, it will completely reframe your understanding of ancient societies. Forget everything you thought you knew about African history. The Igbo are about to blow your mind. Before the pyramids were mapped, before Europe knew Africa's name, there thrived a civilization with its own kings, merchants, philosophers, and warriors hidden in the forests of West Africa. Who are the Igbo, and why has their story been buried until now? From ancient democratic republics and mystic traditions to colonial resistance and global influence, this isn't just history, it's a story of resilience, ingenuity, and identity that still shapes millions today. If you thought you knew African history, Think again, subscribe, because this is just the beginning. The Hidden Legacy. History of the Igbo people. Long before Nigeria existed, deep in the heart of West Africa, a people carved out a civilization defined by wisdom, trade, and spiritual depth. The Igbo, one of Africa's largest ethnic groups, built societies without kings, governed by councils, elders, and secret societies. They believed in balance, ancestry, and the unseen. From ancient origins to colonial upheaval, from civil war to global diaspora, this is the untold story of a people whose history is as complex as it is inspiring. Who are the Igbo? Where did they come from? And why does their story matter more now than ever? The Igbo Story, a journey through time. Subscribe and follow the series. In the heart of West Africa lies a story rarely told in classrooms. A story passed through generations, carried in names, symbols, and soil. The Igbo people, one of Africa's most influential and resilient ethnic groups, trace their roots back thousands of years. Yet, their history remains one of the most misunderstood. Long before colonization, before borders, the Igbo developed complex societies, without kings, without empires, governed by councils, guided by ancestors, and bound by a deep sense of community and cosmology. But how did such a society thrive without centralized rule? What happened when colonial powers arrived? And how has the Igbo identity endured, from ancient times through war to the modern global stage? Join us as we uncover the legacy, the struggles, and the spirit of a people whose story is far from over. Origins, the roots of the Igbo story, a journey through time. To understand the present, we must walk backwards into the past. And in the southeastern forests of what is today Nigeria, we find the ancient footprints of a people whose story begins not with conquest, but with continuity. The Igbo, or Ndi Igbo, are among the largest ethnic groups in Africa, numbering over 40 million. But their origins remain wrapped in mystery, myth, and oral tradition. The myths and oral tradition. Igbo cosmology tells of Chukwu, the supreme being, who created the universe and sent down humans to inhabit Allah, the earth. From Eri, a divine ancestor sent from the sky, came the first leaders and priests. The story of Eri is central to Igbo identity. Said to have descended from the heavens, he founded the ancient town of Aguleri, where his descendants spread across the land, establishing clans, traditions, and sacred institutions. Archaeological evidence. Igbo Ukwu. In 1938, a discovery shook the foundations of African historical studies. A villager digging a well in Igbo Ukwu unearthed bronze artifacts of astonishing detail, dated back to the 9th century CE. These artifacts predated similar bronzes in Ife and Benin, revealing that the Igbo had developed a highly sophisticated culture, with long-distance trade networks stretching to North Africa and beyond. Society without kings, the Igbo political system. Unlike many other African civilizations, traditional Igbo society operated without monarchs. Instead, governance was communal, decentralized, and participatory. Decisions were made by councils of elders, age grades, and spiritual authorities. Power was balanced through institutions like the Umuada, the Daughters of the Village, and secret societies such as the Ekwe and Nzena Ozo. Even women held considerable influence in Igbo society, a reality that challenges modern misconceptions. Spirituality and the ancestors. To the Igbo, life is a cycle, connected across realms. The living, the dead, and the unborn form a continuous chain. Ancestors are not gone. They are present, guiding, protecting, and judging the living. The Dibia, or priest healer, interprets the will of the spirits, communicates with the ancestors, and heals the body and soul. These traditions are rooted in Odinani, the indigenous belief system that predates foreign religions. The Igbo diaspora before colonization. Long before European contact, the Igbo were connected through regional and trans-Saharan trade. Salt, iron, palm products, and crafts were exchanged across the Niger River and beyond. But the world was about to change. Foreign ships would arrive on the coasts, and with them, the most disruptive forces the Igbo had ever known: colonialism and the transatlantic slave trade. From the sacred hills of Aguleri to the bronzes of Igbo Ukwu, the roots of the Igbo run deep, anchored in resilience, guided by spirit, and alive in culture. This is just the beginning. Resistance and resilience, the Igbo in the colonial era. By the 15th century, the winds of change reached West Africa's shores. European ships, first Portuguese, then British, sailed in with their flags and trade goods. But what they brought was not just commerce, it was conquest, contact and commerce. At first, contact was transactional. Palm oil, ivory, and crafts from Igbo land flowed outward. But soon, another commodity dominated the exchange: human lives. Over centuries, thousands of Igbo men, women, and children were captured and sold into slavery. Taken across oceans, many perished. Others survived and preserved fragments of their culture in the Americas, from Jamaica to the Carolinas. Their spirit could not be chained. The legend of the fall-flying Africans, enslaved Igbo who resisted and walked into the sea, speaks to the enduring power of identity and defiance. The arrival of the British Empire. By the late 1800s, the British weren't just trading, they were taking. Under the guise of treaties and protection, the British Empire carved up Nigeria, and Igbo land became part of the colony. The Igbo had no single king to negotiate with. Their decentralized society confused and frustrated the British, but it also made the Igbo harder to subdue. The Aro Confederacy and resistance. For centuries, the Aro Confederacy held religious and commercial influence across Igbo land, centered around the oracle Ibini Ukpabi. The British saw it as a threat. In 1901, British forces invaded Arochukwu, destroying the sacred oracle and dismantling the Confederacy. But this was just the beginning of Igbo resistance. Women's War of 1929. In 1929, thousands of Igbo women, traders, mothers, farmers rose up in protest. The British had imposed new taxes and ignored traditional female authority. The result was one of the largest anti-colonial uprisings led by women in African history. They sang, danced, occupied courts, and burned colonial outposts. Though brutally suppressed, the Women's War was a bold declaration: the Igbo would not be silent. The struggle for education and autonomy. The Igbo quickly embraced Western education, not as submission, but as a tool for empowerment. They founded schools, edited newspapers, and began to challenge colonial authority in their own voices. By the 1940s, Igbo leaders were at the forefront of Nigeria's growing independence movement. Their message was clear: this land was not Britain's to rule. A legacy of resistance. Through centuries of disruption, enslavement, occupation, and cultural erasure, the Igbo did not vanish. They adapted, they resisted, and they remembered. Their resistance was not just in battles, but in language, in community, in keeping traditions alive. It is a legacy written not in stone, but in spirit. The colonial chapter was brutal, but it did not break the Igbo. In the next episode, we explore a new era, when Nigeria gained its freedom and the Igbo would once again rise and fall in their pursuit of self-determination. The Biafran Dream and the tragedy of war. In 1960, Nigeria became independent. Hope swept through the land. The promise of a new nation, united, free, and strong, seemed within reach. But beneath the surface, the seeds of division had already taken root. Among the three major ethnic groups, the Hausa Fulani in the north, Yoruba in the west, and Igbo in the east, tensions simmered. Power, politics, and old colonial divisions began to pull at the seams of unity. The 1966 coups and ethnic violence. In January 1966, a group of young army officers staged Nigeria's first coup. Most of them were Igbo, and although the coup's architects claimed national intentions, its bloody outcome sparked suspicion and backlash. In the months that followed, thousands of Igbo civilians living in northern Nigeria were hunted and killed in targeted pogroms. Entire communities were wiped out. Survivors fled back east, broken and afraid. The Declaration of Biafra. On May 30th, 1967, Colonel Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu, military governor of the eastern region, made a historic proclamation, the birth of a new republic, Biafra. For the Igbo, Biafra was more than a secession. It was a dream of safety, self-determination, and survival, but the Nigerian government saw it as rebellion. War was inevitable. The Nigerian Civil War, 1967-1970. What followed was one of the bloodiest civil wars in African history. For 30 months, Biafra fought a desperate battle for independence. Surrounded, outgunned, and blockaded, they resisted with ingenuity and with courage. Biafra built its own weapons, its own radio station, and kept hope alive in the face of overwhelming odds, but it came at a terrible cost. The humanitarian crisis. Famine swept across Biafra. The blockade choked off food and medicine. Over 1 million civilians, many of them children, died from starvation. For the first time, the world watched a humanitarian crisis unfold on television. Biafra became a global symbol of suffering, but aid alone could not stop the war. The end of Biafra. In January 1970, Biafra surrendered. The dream was over. Colonel Ojukwu went into exile, and the Nigerian government declared, "No victor, no vanquished." But for the Igbo, the scars ran deep. Homes were destroyed. Bank accounts were wiped. Trust in the Nigerian state was shattered, yet even in defeat, the spirit of Biafra did not die. A legacy still felt. Today, the legacy of Biafra continues to shape Igbo identity. For some, it is a painful memory. For others, a cause still alive. But for all, it remains a reminder of how far a people will go to protect their dignity. From the ashes of war, the Igbo rose again, building, innovating, remembering. Their resilience, tested in fire, endured. The Biafran War was not just a battle for land. It was a cry for identity, justice, and a place to belong. In our next episode, we explore how the Igbo redefined themselves in the decades that followed, through entrepreneurship, art, politics, and cultural revival.
Oh yes, that is it. He has explained the whole thing concerning the Igbos, the resilience, the movement, and how the Igbo origin started. And the reason why is like Nigeria, they are finding it very difficult to defeat the Igbo till date, starting from the pre-colonial masters down to these modern days of Nigeria. So the Igbo, they have been there fighting for their origin, fighting for their identity, and fighting to become independent, to stay on their own, right from the British pre-colonial masters. Finally, they joined them into Nigeria without asking them if they will be part of this nation. Starting from there, all those issue of fight started. So, in fact, the whole story is very, very big and very, very large. So, this is just a half of the whole thing. So, in our next episode, we are going to give you the full details concerning the Igbo origin, so that you understand the whole thing and where all those things is coming from. Well, I would like to hear your comment down below. What do you think about the old stories? Like, subscribe, and share the video to go around. Let others see the things that is going on in Nigeria and in Africa. Thank you for watching.